Hey everybody, it's Stacie from the Key to Soul Awakening. If there's one video you don't want to miss, this one is it. When I began my spiritual awakening in 2018, Nicky Sutton's channel was the first one I found, and it still is by far the best channel on YouTube about spiritual awakening. If you're new to this community, welcome. I built this community so I can teach others that recovery from trauma and abuse through a spiritual awakening is absolutely possible. I went through years of therapy in the traditional sense, and it just didn't work for me. I suffered in silence and anger for nearly 2 decades before finding personal freedom through universal laws and metaphysical spirituality. I post teaching videos and detailed accounts of my life, how I got through it. If that's interesting to you, please subscribe at the red button below on this screen and click the bell icon and turn it on so you can be notified of all the videos I post, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a week. It just depends when the spirit moves me. I invited Nicky to come on my channel because she was a huge part of my spiritual awakening journey and the success I've had with it. Now, I'm sure most of my followers already know who this woman is, but for those of you who do not, Nicky Sutton is a YouTube pioneer on the subject of spirituality and awakening. Her YouTube channel is called Spiritual Awakening, and it has over 12 million views and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. She also has a new book coming out in the spring of 2021 called Consciousness Rising, guiding you through spiritual awakening and beyond. I'm going to link how you can pre-order that book right now in the description box below. But stick around and watch this video because I invited her to come on to talk about energetic cords. The conversation took so many different turns that we ended up discussing not only energetic cords, but forgiveness and recovery from abuse through spirituality. The cord cutting for me turned out to be the best thing I ever did in my life to move on from this trauma and abuse. Nicky was the professional who guided me through that cord cutting. She, along with Melissa, the spiritual healer who I speak about in the first part of A Chance to Be Happy, I credit for the two people who actually saved my life in 2020. There's no doubt about it. Nicky and Melissa, hands down, saved my life, and I'm here to teach all of you about how you can recover from trauma and abuse because of that. In this discussion, I get very real with Nicky about the things I went through and how I personally reacted to abuse and trauma and the effect that that had on my life. I'm hoping viewers can see that I've recovered and you can too. Please welcome Nicky Sutton to the Key of Soul Awakening. Thank you, Nicky, for coming to my channel. I'm so excited. Thank you for taking the
Oh,
time.
thank you so much for having me. It's really kind of you.
Oh, you're amazing. Okay.
Oh, so are
Nicky, I'm
you.
wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the background of your soul awakening journey and what got you to come to the world and present all this information to us.
Oh, okay. So, well, I had a spiritual awakening, quite a traumatic one actually. It was as a result of a move. I split up with the father of my kids, and moved halfway up the country, and everything changed, and it was all just very traumatic. And I was previously in marketing, and I decided that that wasn't what I wanted to do, because I felt like I was just sort of working hard so that my boss could get richer and richer. So then I became an administrator for a residential home for older people, and that was much more rewarding. But I felt like there was a bit more to reality, like my whole life, a bit more to reality than what we see around us. But you know, it wasn't till later on that my awakening happened in my early 30s. So yeah, it was a traumatic event that initiated my awakening, and I just went on the path of searching and seeking for information, and I had lots of experiences, kundalini experience, lots of anxiety coming up, lots of old traumas coming up, and I was transformed into a completely different person, really, to be honest. So I felt like I wanted to help others through their awakening. Just had this irresistible urge to do so. And even though I didn't really want to put my face on the internet, and I'm still not that keen on it, but I feel like I feel
I'm so
like I
with you.
just yeah. But sometimes the message that you want to bring forth is stronger than that sort of resistance
Mhm.
to put yourself out there. So I sort of pushed myself through it, went on YouTube, started writing articles, and it just went from there really. And my work was received pretty well, and here I am today, still going with it. So
Oh, your channel's fantastic. I just
oh,
saw the newest video you did, and I marvel at how you keep coming up with these ideas. Do they just come to you?
do actually, but it's usually something that's gone on around me, or my husband might start talking about something, or a friend might say something, or I might read something that gives me inspiration, um, or general thoughts while I'm contemplating stuff or doing my own inner work, which I still do.
Mhm.
And then I think, oh, that might be good to talk about. Others might find that useful. So then I scribble down a few notes and then just jump in front of the camera.
Nikki, what would you say to somebody who's thinking about spiritual awakening but really isn't sure if it's for them yet?
well, well, the thing is with spiritual awakening, I don't know if it's always a choice. It tends to just happen.
Drawn to
You
you,
see what I
yes.
mean?
Hmm.
Because, like for myself, although I did, because I remembered certain things I used to like when I was about 11 or 12, I used to enjoy using the tarot, and I used to sort of see spirits sometimes. Um, I started searching for spiritual stuff, but I had a motivation to do so because it was some kind of inner intuitive pull pulling me towards spiritual concepts and realizations. And for others, if you were to suddenly see an apparition, that'll, or have a out of body experience or a meditative experience where you sense oneness for the first time, something like that, it's you just end up on having a spiritual awakening, perhaps because there's no choice. There's something, a catalyst that comes along that makes you question everything. It's like, what was that shook my concept of reality?
Yes.
Now I need to figure out what that was, and then away you go down the rabbit hole, as it were. Do you see what I
Yes.
mean?
And that rabbit hole is a crazy ride, but it's great.
Did
Yeah,
you went through that too?
I did. I went through after, I think I met you when we did the cord cutting. It was right after I got out of the dark night, and
Right,
it was probably the most transformative experience of my life.
right.
Definitely not depression, but it was like I forgot who I was. Like I didn't even recognize myself, and I had to just keep moving along and knowing I was going to get to the end of this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, because my friend, she had a cord cutting with you, and she recommended it because she said it was the best thing she ever did. I thought, okay, I'm going to
Wow.
try this. Oh yeah, she credits you for changing her life. Um,
Really? Wow.
me
That's
too.
amazing.
Um,
Amazing.
so energetic cords, would you be able to explain what they are basically, and how they work in everyone's life?
Okay, well, energetic cords are sort of attachments that one might have to another person, and it's not just energetic, it's emotional. Well, emotions are energy anyway, and they can come about when we have a relationship with someone, or spent a long time with someone, or had significant events with them, or with our parents, obviously, because they've brought us up. So these are sort of emotional connections, attachments, and they can be seen with hypnosis as energetic cords that connect us to the other person. They're very much psychic connections. So, and they do go both ways. So if the other person was to say or do something, it might trigger you greatly if you have these cords of
Oh,
attachment
that's
still in
interesting.
place.
Hmm.
But um, therefore, by cutting those emotional cords, they don't have such an emotional impact on you anymore psychically, and therefore you can be in their presence more easily without being triggered emotionally by what they say and do. And it's also the same if you don't see them anymore. You're not so triggered by those memories that come up about them, and you have less and less unpleasant emotion coming up about them too. So,
And I think for me, that was the biggest change, because in my channel, I talk in that Chance to Be Happy. I talk about how I was obsessed with my parents, and who they've not spoken to me in years. And I woke up every day just needing to see them, needing to feel them. And nothing helped me until I had this cord cutting with you.
right.
Where I'm not sure if you remember, where I was actually on a wall with my mom, and you whispered, you're two different people, right? And that's when everything just started coming down. I realized, yeah, we are two different people. Yeah, ever since that cord cutting, I don't have that same sense of despair and longing for people who weren't really nice to me. Um,
Right.
and it's interesting how I don't hate them, but I don't love them in a way that's their child anymore. I love them because they're humans, and I pray for them, but they're not. I mean, I cannot explain to my viewers how much this cord cutting just helped my depression and my spiritual awakening along. It was the best thing ever.
Wow, wow. Well, it would have probably cut that longing you have to see or be with them, because subconsciously, your subconscious mind is probably longing to see them and be with them, to reconcile and heal, because subconsciously you'd feel like the best way in order to heal this unpleasant emotion and what you're experiencing today is to somehow be in their presence, to try and get some kind of um, uh, affirmation from them that it wasn't you, it's not your fault or something. But of course, that might be unlikely to actually come from them. It's the longing to be with them is a longing to make sense of it, the longing to draw it to a close. But really, you don't have to go and see them again. I mean, you can do if you want to, obviously, but you don't have to be in their presence again for your subconscious to heal it. It can be done, at a distance, energetically.
I think the same for my friend who did the cord cutting for an abusive ex-spouse, where she would just hear his voice and end up shaking. And when she did that cord cutting, she's just a different person now. She's happy and solidly confident in who she is without even worrying about him anymore.
The
It,
hearing of the voice might be, her subconscious replaying it, or it may actually be a psychic connection of his thoughts. It's sort of, or maybe an audio sort of flashback of events, things like that. It's all this connection, this psychic connection, and the subconscious unable to let go just yet. So it goes over it and over it and over it again until we go ahead and heal that. And cutting the cord is very much a letting go. It's drawing a line through it now. It's releasing that connection so that they don't affect you so much anymore. Then you can go ahead and be the you of today without those influences. You can start really being you and finding out who you are, when all of that can be actually hampering you and your development and finding yourself.
Oh, I agree. I think, and I've seen a number of psychics the last couple of years, and they all, I mean, it's amazing how they've all told me that I'm energetically connected to these two people who are so negative, and it was coming through this cord. So, could you explain the different kinds of cords? I know there's different colors and different types of cords, but are there different specific cords for specific people?
Well, what I've found in the sessions that I've done in the hypnosis is that they can be different colors, and often that might represent where they're connected on the body. So if it's sort of a love connection where you loved them or you wished that they loved you, but there was a lot of blockage there, it could be a green color attached heart to heart. Or if it's the solar plexus, it could be a lot to do with an egotistical or narcissistic attachment, and it might be yellow at that point. So if it's with the throat, it might be blue, representing the
Oh, interesting.
inability for you to speak, and then repressing your ability to make your own choices, to be able to speak your truth. So yeah, I found they're different colors. Often they're just a gold color, And also in terms of thicknesses, they might be very thick, as if they're right in there, and big, very strong energetically, or they might be thinner, and there might be more than one as well, with thicker ones and thinner ones. So it sort of varies from person to person.
It's such an interesting concept. I mean, when that wall came down around my mom, like I did have a huge, it was very thick, coming down. And my dad's came out of the solar plexus, but it was red. And honestly,
Right.
it was harder to disconnect from my dad than my mom. It was really, I stood there and I thought, I don't want to do this, but it was so therapeutic to be able to tell them what I wanted to tell them and
Mm.
know that there wasn't going to be a negative reaction. I could just say it.
Mm. Are you able to say why it was harder to disconnect from your dad than your mum?
Yeah, I think, and I've recently discovered through meditation and some my guides talking to me that I made a soul contract with him that I was supposed to come in and help him with his negativity and fear of the world and actions and behaviors. But when I was born, he immediately rejected me immediately, and it's been gone on my whole life. Where
Oh.
and then he told me when I was younger and growing up that I'm just like him. I have whatever disorder he has. So, and which he's not a nice person. So for him to
Oh.
say that, but I understand now that I had a soul contract with him where he was supposed to see his behaviors in me and then start changing himself.
Mm-hmm.
And in not fulfilling that soul contract I felt like I failed. I felt like I didn't do my job as on my part of the contract. However, when I did the cord cutting, that contract was voided. I didn't need to fulfill it anymore, and I don't feel the need to actually help him anymore. When before it was like this obsession, I had to get to him, I had to help him.
Mm.
Um, and if we're going to talk about just the ego level and the human level, yeah, I was always his like little girl, and then he just kind of dumped me, and I never really understood why
Mm-hmm.
until I got to the soul level and I realized this is much easier to understand from the soul level because he's rejecting himself basically because he doesn't like how he's acting. Um,
So you felt like you were just like him because he
okay.
told you so?
Oh no, yeah, I mean, I wasn't that nice to people. And it was only the last couple months where I went through this spiritual awakening that I realized that, yeah, I was like him and I was becoming more like him every day. And I was losing everybody in my life
Okay.
because of it.
Oftentimes kids are not that nice to people because they are brought up in a household where other family members are not that nice to people. Do you think that perhaps you adopted certain behaviors
I think
following his?
Oh yeah, I think, and I talk about this a bit more in a couple of the other videos where I was pretty badly sexually abused by a few family members, and everybody knew, but nobody did anything. So it made me feel very much that I was not important, that
Mm.
I didn't matter. And he might have once or twice in my life, my dad felt like made me feel like I mattered, and he really was the only one who ever did that.
Right. Okay.
But on the
I
flip
did
side,
watch.
he also was quite mean to me. So
Right. That must have been confusing, him being nice sometimes and not others. But I did watch your video. It's very touching. I admire
oh,
your
thank you,
strength, and your honesty.
thank
And
you,
I'm sure it'll be a great inspiration to others. I admire you for that.
oh thanks. Yeah, I've been getting the reaction I've gotten from it actually shocked me because I didn't think like the abuse was that bad until people started reacting to it, and I realized like was it that bad? And my husband was like, yeah, honey, it was pretty bad. So I think I minimized it a whole lot until I actually started talking to people about it. But yeah, the first step to this was the cord cutting, where I didn't realize I was that attached to my parents, and that a cord cutting can do that much good and change you so much because I do feel like a different person.
Unfortunately, I'm not doing these sessions at the moment for people. So if anyone did want one, I have to apologise because of other projects happening with the book and trying to produce content. I'm not doing sessions right now. I'm not sure when I'll be resuming them, but it's really wonderful to hear that they've helped you, and that's great motivation to really prioritise those, hopefully in the near future, and to get back to doing them.
Oh, I do hope you
So,
do. I do, because you're just so great at it.
oh.
That was my next question, actually, because I know you're not doing them right now, but um, if somebody wanted to get a cord cutting, is there a training or a process you go through, or is it just somebody who like watched a video and said, I know how to do this, let's do it? What do you
Okay.
recommend?
Okay, so I did train in it. So it was part of my past life regression training, and I trained with the Past Life Therapists Association in the UK. So I learned past life regression, and I learned soul retrieval and cord cutting and general hypnosis and how to heal, and lots of other healing techniques, and how to remove blockers as well, because sometimes the subconscious puts up blockers to healing and says, no, you're not coming in. But and how to alleviate those and stuff. So yes, I was trained in it, and then I've developed my own techniques, my own ways of doing it, sort of improved slightly on the process in my own way, and also it led me to do the guided meditations that I do as well on that YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel for that. So yeah, it was training. And I'd recommend the Past Life Therapists Association, but I know there's lots out there. And
Right, I could tell a difference between like what I'm seeing, just anybody doing it, and then what you had done. Is there a danger to somebody who isn't trained performing this procedure?
um possibly, as with anything, because you need to make sure you cover everything. And also, with hypnosis, you have to be very careful about subconscious suggestion. And I'm always extremely particular about that, like not accidentally planting ideas in someone's head, because when they're very relaxed, in the alpha states, very relaxed indeed, that's hypnosis, the subconscious mind becomes extremely suggestive. So you can't say stuff that will be leading questions, or suggesting things like, perhaps, you're in lots of pain, aren't you? Although that sounds like you're empathizing, which indeed you are, that puts a suggestion in the subconscious mind, which subconscious readily accepts in such a state, and that person may start experiencing more emotional pain or even physical pain.
That's
So
fascinating.
you have to be super duper careful. Um, and also, making sure you get someone into the right level of hypnosis, guiding them in properly, guiding them out properly as well, because it's important to complete a whole hypnosis so that you're brought back properly to your conscious state where you began, so that yes, the healing is done, but you're back in the here and now, and not, because what can happen is you can end up sort of walking around feeling like you're still in it. If you're visiting memories and things that are sometimes a little hard to face, you could end up feeling like you're still walking around in it. So you need to be brought out properly.
Well, that's interesting. It's a good segue to what I was going to ask you next. Was when I did my cord cutting, I remember I popped right out of it, and you said, "You're out," and I said, "Yep, my eyes are open." And you're like, "We're trained to bring you all the way." I'm like, "I'm out. I'm good."
Close your eyes again.
Right. Um, so what happened? And just to, I know you do a lot of these, so I'll just refresh your memory. When I went down into the meditative state and I saw my parents, I immediately ran into a forest, which wasn't actually there. And you had said, you're in a forest. Is it next to your house? I said, no, it just appeared. And so when I got out, and you had said that was my subconscious running away, like I didn't want to deal with it. So when I got out of the hypnotic state, I actually sketched what it looked like. Let me see if I can pull this up. Um, I sketched what it looked like, and then I did not realize how important this was going to be until later. Can I screen share this? There we go. So can you see that? This is what I sketched.
Wow, that's
Okay.
like, yeah, how I imagined. I was following
Yeah.
along with you. Yeah.
Okay. So let me just stop the share. Okay. So that's what I sketched. And then a few months later, I went to visit Melissa, who had done the spiritual healing for me, which was a lot of talking to my guides and past lives and putting together my patterns and issues that came in this life. So I go to her house, and as soon as we get there, she's like, I want to show you my fairy garden. And we walked around to her house, the side of her house. And this is what, let's see if I can screen share again. This is what I walked into, was her forest next to the house. And I was like, Melissa,
Wow.
like, this is where I went during that hypnosis with
Yeah.
you.
And with the porch thing at the front?
Yeah. This
Or
was,
the like
I
a
was up here.
decking?
Hmm.
Yes.
I mean, I just can't, let me see if I can get the other one up. I just can't believe, like, this is exactly where I was. And I had never met her before. I'd never went to her house, but she was the other person who had gone into my subconscious and spoke to my guides. And somehow I went to her house when I got scared, which I thought was
Interesting.
fascinating. Um,
That shows that you're close, good friends with a high level of trust and appreciation.
but honestly, I do feel close to her, but it's like we just met. So,
Nice.
like I said, I think she's part of my soul group,
There you go.
as we're all trying to help each other, you know. But I just thought you'd find that interesting. That,
Yep,
you know.
because I was visualizing along with you, and that was what was in my mind's eye at the same time. Oh, you probably just described it to me very well, but that was what came about. But it was important not to make you come out of the forest because you were in there for your own protection. So your subconscious mind put up resistance and said, "Whoop, this is too much. Into the forest I go because it's safe in there." And I checked with you what the forest felt like to you, if it
Mhm.
felt okay, if it felt safe to you.
You did,
Okay,
and you were
right. So
kind
I
of just
wouldn't have.
waiting because I just forgot my parents were there, and I just started planting flowers. And for a minute, I did
Right.
forget you were there too, until you said, "Are you ready to get out of the forest?"
Right,
Um,
yep. So it was important to ascertain that the forest too was a nice, safe place to be. And once we ascertained that, I thought, great, now she's got a place to retreat to if she needs it.
yeah.
So then we tentatively, carefully, and slowly started to address why we were there. Your subconscious put that forest there for a very good reason, to help you to heal and just to give you a safe place there to retreat to and to be in if required. So you see how amazing and dynamic the subconscious mind is. It knows what to do given the
It's
chance.
astonishing. I mean, astonishing that those two locations and sessions were blended together to show me that I'm on the right track. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. When I walked
Mhm.
into Melissa's forest, I literally got goosebumps because I was like, I've been here
Wow.
before. Do you have anything else to add about energetic cords or spiritual awakening for people who are just entering this process?
Okay. So, well, with chords, it's also good during the session to not just cut the chords, but do a little bit of interaction with the personalities in the visualized individuals within the scene, because as part of my sort of holistic healing with this is to try and gain a little bit of understanding of why people are as they are, so a bit of understanding of their backstories, because understanding leads to forgiveness. This isn't making what they've said or done acceptable, but what it is taking the burden off the self a bit, because kids are very impressionable and they take on concepts like I am a bad person, that's shame, and I'm naughty, I'm no good at this, there's no point in trying, I need to be quiet, um, I'm not allowed, I can't do anything unless I'm told. So it's important to have understanding of the person's backstory, because they may have suffered something in their past that has caused them to be the way they are today. And if they'd had a really healthy upbringing, they might have been a completely different person. So by having a bit of understanding for their backstories, we start to see, oh, actually, this is kind of a grown, wounded child, say if it's a parent. This parent needs so much healing themselves that they probably weren't capable of being fully kind and nice and parenting in a wonderful way. They probably weren't capable of it because they needed so much healing. And in that way, through that understanding, you sort of end up automatically forgiving them a little bit, because you see, wow, if they'd had that healing, they probably would have felt better themselves, not behaved that way. So So during the cord cutting session, we try and have some understanding, which leads to forgiveness as well. And we wish them some healing too.
Actually, you just made me think of another thing, is that
Okay.
where I'm going with, and I honestly had no idea my channel was going to head this direction, but
Mm,
people have asked me how I can forgive my parents, but not my brother, who also had pretty significantly abused me.
mm,
And that is the new journey I'm on. I'm trying to understand it so I can try to forgive him. And I've gotten a lot of questions about, like, how can you even want to forgive him? And I think it's going to do more for me than
mm,
just release me, um, because it's not about condoning, it's about
mhm.
understanding it. And it did work for my parents, that I understand. My parents are absolutely those people who were wounded kids, and they didn't know how to parent or love properly, and I understand that now.
Hmm. And
um,
that shows it's not you. It was not your fault. As all
right,
these things you've taken on as a result of their words and their actions,
right.
that gives you a bit more permission to let that lot go, because it's not you, and no one has the right to tell you who you are, and you
It's
can decide
interesting.
that.
I had a dream the other night when all of this came up, and I asked my guides, could you please give me a dream? Because I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing, like, with my brother. Like, am I supposed to be forgiving him? And my dream that night was that he was there, and he had so much rage and hurt in him that he was like
Mm,
breaking things. And I
mm,
had ran away, and I was walking down the street, took my ID out, but it wasn't me. It was like another name. And I literally set out. It's like that movie, The Net, where they changed her identity. um, and I got the realization that I'm not who they told me I was.
absolutely.
um, and
That's for you to decide.
and
See?
that's the journey I'm on now, and I hope other people will learn from it, that you don't have to be that person everyone tells you you were when you grew up.
Absolutely. When it comes to your brother, I can understand how he would be very hard to forgive, because I did watch your video. So um, that's it. If forgive, you see, the reason why we shoot for forgiveness is just to release some of that unpleasant energy within the self. And as you say, it's not condoning, and that has to be remembered. If you can't reach forgiveness with him, at least try with the understanding, as you have been. As you said, he was a bit twisted. There'll be a reason for that. He may
Yeah,
have had something done to him, or observed these things. Even observing something like that would traumatize a child, and cause them to do the same behaviors, perhaps in an attempt to normalize it.
I think growing up, I didn't focus on him so much, even though I should have.
Mm,
And my husband will even say this, that I didn't really blame him, oddly, for all of this happening until recently. But
mm.
yeah, I mean, I watched him get beaten when he was
Oh, there you
little.
go. Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of empathy for him, and then that balances out with uh, the anger, and I can't really resolute that yet. um,
Mm,
but yeah, I mean, we were pretty good friends, and I feel like all of that changed, and I'm
yeah,
not sure why. And that's
yeah,
my journey. I'm going to figure out why and then forgive him.
yep. I think continue with the understanding of why he may have done such things, and perhaps if he'd had a much more supportive, loving upbringing, then he probably never would have done such things. But we can't make ourselves forgive. We can't make our anger go away. It's certain realizations that allow it to naturally dissipate, often in an instant at that point, once we have the certain realizations. But it does, it can take a lot of time, and you can just work on the anger and the understanding through those realizations of the whys he was that way. And in a way, you start to feel a bit sounds like you start to feel a bit sorry in a way for them, because
Yes. Hmm.
yeah, you see what I mean.
I absolutely understand. It's very odd to have pity for somebody who treated you so poorly.
Yeah, I hope viewers
Yeah.
aren't taking this wrong, but it's perhaps pity for their backstory, but
Right.
not excusing what they did, but
Absolutely.
and not
Yeah.
normalizing it, but just in order to help the self, just to allow you to let it go in the way that it doesn't affect you so much day
Yeah.
to day with unpleasant emotions. So there has to be some sort of reconciling, and I often find that is looking at the person's history and why they did the things they did. Never acceptable, of course, that they
Absolutely
did.
agree with you. Yep. And I think what I realized through this journey is that I labeled myself a victim my whole life, and in doing so, I gave myself permission to act certain ways because I felt justified.
Okay. Okay.
So as soon as I let go of that, I'm very careful not to call myself a victim, because if I label myself as a victim, it's a slippery slope to get down and not be able to get back up emotionally.
Okay.
So, and that's what I'm trying to tell my viewers, is that it's okay in the time being to be victimized, because that happens. But
Yeah.
staying in that state will paralyze your life. So you need to
Because
find a way
it's
to move on.
Yeah, because it's not such an empowering state. In that state, perhaps the motivation to, or the energy to heal, because it can be a tough road, the healing, and it takes a lot of energy. So in that state, it can be trickier to move towards healing. It's more of a stagnant state, perhaps.
And that's what I was dealing with in the Dark Knight, where it was I can't. The Dark Knight was so, I just didn't want to do it. I just laid there. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't know who I was, but that was good because I had let go of all the anger and rage. I just didn't have anything else inside of me. Um, so I had to build up. And what happened was, the first thing that happened, that I actually remember feeling pride, as I was on the treadmill and I thought, I can make it to 20 minutes. I can make it to 20 minutes. And I kept wanting to get off. I'm like, this is hard. This is hard. I made it to 20 minutes. I literally started to cry because I thought, I did that myself. I did that. And it was the first time I ever felt pride for something that I did. It was so small. And I remember
Wow.
laughing, like, why are you crying? But it just, I had nothing inside of me because I had let go of all of that anger and all of that rage. And the first thing I allowed in then was pride for myself. And that's
That's
what got me
wonderful.
here, is that I just kept building on that, rather than I just don't allow any of the anger in, like I did before, because I don't justify it, because it's never
You,
justifiable to treat anybody badly.
Absolutely. You can be proud of yourself, very proud of yourself. And perhaps in the past you didn't feel like you could be proud of yourself, but now that there's a separation between that past and your new future, you can fully allow those feelings to be proud of yourself.
Exactly. I think in the past, and I think a lot of this for the viewers, is that when you feel pride, sometimes when you have parents like this, they take it away from you and they say,
Hmm.
it's because I drove you there, or I bought you that, or it was never anything that I had done. So I grew up and thought, I'm not gonna, I don't do anything good. It's exactly what I used to think.
That's it. Yeah, I had the same thing, trust me.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's taken a long time to be able to not feel this big and
right.
to actually feel empowered and gain confidence. I still suffer from anxiety from time to time. It's a lot less than it used to be because I've had to let go of all those things that people said to me, and the humiliation, etc. And I've had to distance myself as who I am today from what they told me I was in the past. And gradually my confidence grows. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm definitely, so much closer to that. Takes a
You should be
while.
proud too. You should be
Thank
proud
you.
of yourself too. Yeah. And I think, I mean, with my dad telling me from little on up that I was just like him, that ingrained itself into me. And I
Yes,
thought, I can't
absolutely.
be anything else than just like him now.
Your subconscious mind, the subconscious mind accepts suggestion through repetition as well, especially as a child, because children soak up reality as they're trying to make sense of everything. So if you were repeatedly told that, subconsciously you would start behaving like that person, because your
Mhm.
subconscious mind has the command, I am like him, therefore you involuntarily automatically start behaving like that person.
Yeah. And I think it was not until I met Melissa and she told me I have this pattern of anger and fighting, because I did fight with everybody, everybody. Um,
Right.
and then when I had the cord cutting, I realized, you know what, I really am. I was turning into him, and I don't need to be, because I have a choice. And just like we all have a choice. And
But when you would fight with people, what was it that you were afraid of? Obviously, that's a defense mechanism. What
honestly, what
what
it
was happening?
was that I needed to feel important. I needed to feel smart. I needed to feel like somebody that they can't just disregard.
Right.
Um, I mean, if you talk to anybody who knows me, they'll know she knows all the laws. Like, she knows laws, she knows how to argue. Like, I should have been an attorney. Um, but yeah, and I used to use that in my life where I would argue with people and just try to appear smarter than they were. And it really was just because I didn't want them to discount me like
Okay.
my entire family did.
Was that because you were discounted in the past, or because you were behaving like your dad subconsciously?
Well, I mean, at this point, I have no family left because they've all, I mean, because of that's how narcissistic families go. Like, they just told everybody all this stuff about me and nobody talks to me anymore. So
Oh,
it's been very sobering for me to see how lonely my life has become. And
oh,
I mean, and until I had the cord cutting, I mean, I don't think I'd be sitting here today with the family and friends that I have if I hadn't made all these changes this year.
yep.
I mean, it was my last chance.
So, do you feel it's been beneficial allowing yourself to let these people go? Because you probably felt, because of the cords of attachment, you couldn't let yourself let
Mhm.
them go. But now that you have, has that been beneficial?
Um, Absolutely has been beneficial because now I said to my friend, I was like, I said, Holly, after I had this cord cutting, I never realized I looked in the mirror and saw my mom's face. When I
Wow.
looked in the mirror the next day, I actually saw what I look like. And I don't know that I ever actually saw myself before because I used to just see my mom's face, my dad's
Wow.
eyes. Um, I, the narcissistic behavior in my family had ingrained itself so deeply in me. I mean, I still don't exactly know who I am. I'm just getting there, walking this path with the YouTube
You'll get
channel.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the huge change, was that I didn't need to be like them anymore. And I look in the mirror and I saw myself.
That's awesome. That's a perceptual change. So something happened during your healing process where your perceptions are reset. And then when you look in the mirror, because your perceptions have been reset, i.e., I'm not like me and my mum are two different people. Next time you look in the mirror, it's like, oh, and that the perception is not there. And now you get a chance to perceive yourself anew. And I bet it was a lot better.
I It was like looking at a stranger. It really
Right.
was. It was. I stood there for a little while and just studied my face. Like, wow,
Yeah.
my face is a little larger than my mom's. My hair is a little darker than I thought, um, and I hope by bringing this to the attention of YouTube and the public that other people can see themselves in some of this and try to better their lives through what I've gone through. I mean, honestly, I don't know how I lived last year and the years before with so much anger inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
I look back now and I'm like, I can't believe that was me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Oh, thank
You're
I
doing
really do.
amazingly.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I may have been a catalyst for your healing, but you're the one that did it, in that session. I was just
Oh, thank you.
helping you along. You're the one that did it. So,
Oh, thank you. I want to thank you for coming on and having this very long talk. I
oh,
appreciated it so
thank you.
much.
That's
Um,
great.
for the viewers out there, remember Nikki's book is called Consciousness Rising, guiding you through spiritual awakening beyond. And I'm going to put the link below in the description along with all her other links and contact information. But thank you so much, Nikki.